This is my capital budgeting simulation, and I am analyzing how I got a company APV of 545.49. I'm going to start with answering 8 questions, the first one being how I evaluated a diverse set of competing investment proposals. And what I did was I focused more on the idea of the company. It's a bit more obtuse, but I started with what does the company need to grow and function, and how can it move on. So in other words, I'm going to go here to all my updates to take a gander at the decisions I made. And I started with focusing on, well, down here, I started on focusing on cheap investments that can slowly gain profit over a long time, so that farther down the road, I'd have time to invest in bigger projects, such as the Children's Secretaries line or the virtual doc community. And I looked at if I were to expand on a single idea of the company and go forward with it, what would that be? So for instance, let me see here. Yep, I looked for getting that kind of growth, so I could start with the Match My Doll clothing line and then the Children's Secretary line, and go with these higher stakes projects with a bit more security behind me, a bit more of growth happening, so that if a high stakes project falls through, I have the ability to not be taken asunder with that. So I kind of did that over and over as my decision-making process. My second question is how I handled a range of product types. And that kind of was answering the first question, that I looked at what kind of projects give me growth, so that I can go on to the higher stakes projects. So I looked at low stakes, high investment, or high growth, cheap projects, and then later down the road, more expensive, high stakes projects that will really increase my net value. The third question is how I examined expenditures, cash flow patterns, and common metrics. And that will go over here to the project details. And all the projects I've focused on, like for instance, I keep going back to the toddler doll accessory line. I made sure all of them were getting an income over a period of time that was positive. That's kind of one of the keys to being successful in this simulation, is to make sure things like this, your totals, you're having positive cash flow, your ending cash balance isn't stagnant or in the negatives or at zero, that it is definitely starting somewhere and increasing steadily over a period of time. And that counteracts inflation. That gives you more budget to work with later down the road. There's a lot of reason. Basically, the profit going up tells you that this project is working over a long period of time, and that it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to invest in, especially if it's a low stakes, cheaper project. Throw some money at it, make some money back over a period of time, and that's a thumbs up from the accounting world that you're doing a good job with your investments. The next question is exploring the problem of resource allocation within a corporation by looking at many projects from the senior management perspective. So with this one, I keep going back to starting with your cheap, low-stakes projects and going to your more expensive, high-stakes projects. If I'm correct, this is one of the... Nope. Let's see, I believe one of the first ones I went for was... let's take a look at the Match My Doll and then the Tween Book series. Boop, boop. There we are. So this one was actually one of the first high stakes projects I received, but its lifetime cost was relatively low, so if it fell through, it had some growth behind me to fall back on. But yeah, so because I invested pretty highly into it that year, I didn't have much budget for the rest of my investments that year, but that's okay, because I tried not to invest in many projects at any given moment. You can see it's pretty steady, 2 or 3 investments per year. In fact, I think it's only 2 until 2013, where I really spent all the money in 3 different investments. But yeah, so I focused on kind of investing in what I needed to invest in, instead of just throwing money at every project that came my way. That way, I wasn't constantly spending money on these lifetime projects, and I wasn't constantly losing money, but was instead pretty steadily making money off of the few small investments I made sure to take care of. Next up is the impact of capital rationing on capital investment choices, and I brushed up on this in the last question. That I focused on not investing in all the projects that came down my pipe because I knew I would be paying those off over the long run with that lifetime project cost. And let's see here. Boop boop boop. It's like this Match My Dog clothing line had a lifetime project cost that was pretty middle grounding, but I still had different projects behind me to give me that growth. I still had another project to invest in that year to kind of like counteract the high stakesness of it, and they're all giving me NPV, they're all giving me positive growth. So I think in the end all be all regarding capital allotments. It'd be focusing on not investing in every project that just comes down your way. The next question is how I interpreted the implication of tools of investment analysis. Specifically, I'm going to look at the payback period and profitability index. And what I'm looking most specifically is I paid attention to, in cross correlation, the project costs for the year and then the lifetime, and then the payback period and how low that was. The lower that payback period, the quicker I get my money back. When the simulation only lasting 5 years, I want to get my money back very quickly. Otherwise, I'm dishing money out, saying, yeah, I'll get it back, but then the 5 years are over and I don't have it back. And in a real-world setting, I would have investors that are like, where's our money? And I'd be out of a job. And so yeah, I was really looking at how low I could get that payback period, how high that net value could be, and how impressive that profitability index really could pay off in the shortest term possible. And then next question is how I adjusted for risk differences. And again, I use a notion of low cost, low risk early, high risk later, kind of intermingling the two so that the high risk, if they should fall through, I still have kind of that cushion of low risk growth coming in constantly. And finally, I'm discussing how the capital budgeting rule significantly influenced company performance and market position. And I guess that's really just about the things I'm going to discuss are super important, and I can make notes that they are nearly tripling the NPV of this company just from knowing to look at the one of the keys of capital budgeting being like, is your cash flow positive? Is your payback period low? Is your NPV high? How big are your lifetime costs? It's more or less giving me the composure to ask these questions and take a good, healthy look at the numbers. And I mean, they don't lie. It's been a really fascinating simulation.